Hey everybody, want another GMG review. Today I'm taking a look at the first two Warhammer 40,000 9th edition codexes from Games Workshop. This is Codex Necrons. Now if you're looking for the Codex Space Marines review, you can go up here in the cards and check it out. It is a lot to unpack. There's two new books here. They're in a brand new format. They are drastically different from 8th edition codexes in a bunch of key ways. And they both revamp the armies in fairly significant ways. The Space Marine one, like, pretty significantly. This one, really significantly. And if it's a herald of things to come, it proved true a bunch of things that I thought were hopefully going to happen, looking at the Warhammer 40,000 9th edition rulebook. And I'm really excited about this codex format, because if this is what all the codexes going forward are going to look like, people will be amped when their army comes around and actually gets a codex. It takes away a lot of the rule bloat. Let's dive in. Let's take a look. So first of all, obviously new logo. It's in the new slick, shiny / matte format for codexes. We've got a lot of screamy faces. I don't know what the deal is there. It's not super clear why all these faces are screaming, but I'm excited about it. And then we got some background. So obviously, if you've been under a rock Necron-wise in the last little while, you might not realize that the Silent King has come back. He's reuniting all the Necron dynasties, and they're taking back the galaxy from all these fleshy, mortally interlopers, basically, and trying to prepare it to survive something. Kind of the assumption is the rest of the Tyranid fleet arriving, and that there's going to be a big Tyranid book about whatever the big bad is that's coming. It's got the Silent King basically needing to reunite his kingdom, and he's a bad mamma jamma. There he is right there. So what do we got in this book? Well, we have 120 pages. It is relatively compared to the Space Marine Codex, it's small, but oh my god, the Space Marine Codex packs a lot into it. And the first 62 pages are basically, the first 48 pages are basically background for the army and what's going on with the Necrons in general. How their search for immortality has led to them basically slumbering for a long time because they wiped out all life in the galaxy. Their history with the Catan, how they basically survived for so long, and the way that their dynasties work around the galaxy. I like that we have a not human-y looking map too. Kind of makes me happy. Marks for the Blackstone fortresses too. Marks where the Eye of Terror is. And just kind of the way that their brain works. How the hierarchy works with the pharaons, the royal courts and stuff. The different dynasties and what they're all about. Obviously, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the background. I could do a whole episode basically just on the background for the Necrons. But if you're a huge Necron fan, or if you're looking for a bunch of info, I'm sure there'll be people to break this down going forward in the first couple weeks. We're going to focus more on the rules and the format of the codex and how the book is laid out. So lots of great art, lots of pictures of the new models and stuff. Big fat color photo of the Silent King. He is pretty awesome, and his unit of obelisks that you have to get through before you can actually hurt him. He has a lot of points, but he is worth his points. He's 26 power, something like that. The new flayed ones. Big new Catan. The Void Dragon is pretty cool. And then the rules. Okay, so jumping in, let's take a look at the rules. Now they are laid out in a brand new way for the Codex. I really like it. I really like this format. I'm gonna say it. It feels like there was a bit of Age of Sigmar design influence here on making the codexes sort of readable and adaptable and easy to digest. So it's laid out in this sort of format. If you're playing Battle Forged, if you're not playing open play, take whatever you want. The detachment abilities that you gain for being in a detachment, all your stratagems, which are again you'll see in a minute, organized even better than they were before. They're not just a data dump. They're organized by how they affect units in the game. And then your Cryptek Arcana, which is the different upgrades you can buy for Cryptex. And it's separate from relics because it's almost like a war gear list of the different cool magic items that they have access to. Then your army rules, so your warlord traits, all the relics you have access to, and the different powers. The Catan, along with the 3 bespoke ones for the Void Dragon, the Deceiver, and the Nightbringer. Your match play rules, so chapter approved rules. So this is so exciting. The chapter approved rules are basically one of the things that I called it as probably gonna happen. When I did the 9th edition rulebook review, there are bespoke secondary objectives that you can pick just for the Necrons that represent their style of warfare, which I'm excited about because again, it digs deeper into that 3 ways to play thing. and expands basically how you can play or put your army in the battlefield and make it feel like you're playing that particular race or faction or whatever. And following on with that, Crusade rules. You have access to your own host of like special rules. So bespoke, and I'm not making that word up. They use the word bespoke in here too. I'm not just overusing it because it's a cool sounding word. Requisitions, agendas, and Crusade relics, and weapon enhancements that are basically like representative of the Necrons. So not just one set of like narrative rules, just from the rule book in 9th edition. You got all this extra cool stuff that you can play with. Then all your data sheets, and that's the bulk of what's here. Your weapon profiles, your point values, and oh my god, the quality of life improvement that are the point values here. I do wonder if it's going to be a bit controversial, and I'll dig more into that when I get there, but it's a lot more Age of Sigmar-y, and there's going to be some debate, I think, about, it's a lot flatter, the point values, and I think there's going to be some debate about whether or not certain things should have point increases. But it makes me so happy. Like, I could write an army list in 5 minutes now as opposed to writing an army list and like flipping back and forth between all the weapons and stuff, and they're not trying to assign a particular value to everything. Oh, it's so good. Thank you, Games Workshop. We'll talk about it when we get there. And then a glossary, like an actual glossary of like common terms that are across the army, and a reference sheet that bullet points all their special rules and stuff too. So very cool the way it's laid out. You get an example of a combat patrol, which I think is kind of neat. Like, here's a thing you could take for your first game of 40k. It's an HQ, it's an elite choice, it's a heavy support choice, a fast attack choice, and a troop choice. And I think this is really nice. Both codexes, also the Space Marine Codex, has this as an example. And it looks like it's based on, I think this is going to be the start collecting. I would suspect it is actually, 'cause it's a box of warriors, a box of Scorpic destroyers, the Lord, and the big walkie destroyer. I think this is going to be the start collecting box. Of course, pre-orders go up today. It's entirely possible everyone already knows this, and I'm just being excited about nothing. But you know, it's Ash. That's what I do. I get excited about things that people are like, "Yeah, stupid. That's how it is." Anyway. And then our detachment abilities. So Necron's attachment has to include only Necrons or unaligned. You get your dynastic codes, and those will be in the data sheet section. We'll talk about that. But dynastic codes are basically Space Marine tactics. They're like, I gotta stop using that word. Not gonna say the B word again. They are unique to the Necron army, and you get to customize them yourself based on A, your dynasty, which allow you to double dip into one of them, and B, how you want your army to play, aligning them through the 5 turns of an average game. And the Royal Court. The Royal Court is an interesting rule. It basically just means that you have to use the most senior model in your army, HQ wise, has to be your warlord. So like if the Silent King's there, he's your warlord no matter what. If a Pharaon's there, they're your warlord. If a Overlord is there, they're your warlord. And if a Lord is there, they're your warlord. If nobody else of a higher rank basically is around. So you don't get to choose your warlord based on sort of like your own preferences. You can't have a lower level lord leading a royal court. It has to be the most senior person there. And then dynastic agents and the star gods. A dynastic agent is someone who's not like, they're not part of a dynasty. They're someone that like is like one of the Silent King's like buddies, and they are they're not going to break your detachment. And same with a Catan shard. They don't have a dynasty, but they're not going to break your detachment either. And then your dynastic code. So you can, and what's great is that you've got 6 that are your prerequisite, the main ones, but you can design your own too for ancient dynasties, and you can also make them vassal kingdoms. So a little bit like the Build Your Own Space Marine chapter rules or the Build Your Own Craft World rules that have all been coming out in the various Psychic Awakening books. This is right in the Codex now. Design your own or pick from one of these 6. And the 6 from the previous Codex are in here. So like you've got Mafrit, which is Solar Fury. Add 3 to the range of ranged weapons, except for pistols. Each time a model in this code makes a range attack within half range, it's AP -1. And then when the protocol of Vengeful Stars is active, you get 2 instead of 1. And I'll talk about all the protocols when we get to the data sheets. The Nephrak translocation beams, models in this code have a 6+ invulnerable save. Each time a unit in this code advances, it can translocate. So add 6 to its advance, and you can ignore terrain. You can move through like any object basically, as long as you end somewhere that you could actually land. Each time a unit with this code falls back or translocates until the end of the phase, models in that unit can move across models and terrains if they're not there. So you can even move through friendly enemy models, which is pretty cool. And then they get Protocol Sudden Storm. They get to double dip and get both protocols instead of just one. Novak, Awakened by Murder, add 1 to charge rolls. Each time a model with this code makes a melee attack. If not, it made a charge move, was charge or heroic intervention, they get +1 AP. So it's kind of like Shock Assault for Space Marines, but with AP instead of attacks. And they get Protocol of the Hungry Void. They can get both effects instead of just one. Nihilak, I think, because it's like nihilism. Use this code of objective secured. So your entire army's OBSEC, which is kind of cool. If model with such a unit already has it, they count as 2 models instead of 1. So your whole army becomes OBSEC. That's pretty legit. Each time attack with an armor penetration of -1 is allocated to a model, it gets reduced to 0. So you ignore AP -1. And then they get Protocol of the Eternal Guardian. They can double down and take both benefits. And then Zerakon. Each time a model with this code would lose a wound, a 5+, it's not lost, so they get a 5+ like wound shrug for mortal wounds. And just mortal wounds, sorry, not regular wounds. Each time a unit with this code is selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll 1 wound roll for their attacks, because they have the cool artificer guns. And then they can use Protocol of the Undying Legions, both effects. And then Saw Attack, Relentless Advance. Each time a morale test is taken for a code, you can reroll that test. And instead of following the normal rules for rapid-fire weapons, if the target is within 18 inches, you can double tap. So it doesn't increase the weapon range to 18 inches. This immediately came up where Owen was excited about his was with the Goss, not the Goss rifle, the other Goss, but the Goss Reaper, where it's 12-inch range now in this book. He's like, does it extend the range to 18 inches? It's no. He'd be able to rapid-fire at 12 instead of 6. But it's the range to the target, not the range to the weapons. So cool, you can always rapid fire. It kind of gives you the Space Marines Bolter Discipline for your rapid fire weapons. And then when the Protocol of the Conquering Tyrant becomes active, they get the double dip instead of just a single rule. And yeah, that's even if you move though, which is cool. So Relentless Advance is even if you start walking around. And then build your own dynasty. So when you build your own dynasty, you can either pick a tradition and an awakening, or if you take Vassal Kingdom, you get to basically make your own dynasty, but use one of the main 6's abilities, and then you don't get to pick a circumstance of awakening. And a lot of these are, you could just make the ones from the big dynasty, but then why wouldn't you just take the big dynasty? Because you get to double down on the tactics too. And that's the one thing you don't typically get here, is you don't get a double dip into the whatchamacallits, the command protocols. So Eternal Conquerors is the first one. You get OBSEC, and it counts as double if you already have it. Pitiless Hunters, instead of the normal rules for rapid fire weapons, you can double if you're within half, or if you didn't move. So that's pretty cool. It has to be infantry though, and you remain stationary. Superior Artisans, reroll a single wound roll when a unit shoots or fights. Rad Wreathed, if you're within 1 inch of one of these models as an aura, subtract 1 from your toughness because you're like soaked in radiation. It's kind of the Mechanicus rule for Vanguard, whichever one is already radiation soaked. Immovable Phalanx, each time attack with a damage characteristic of 1 is allocated to infantry model with this code, and unless that model's unit made a normal move, advanced, or fell back this battle round, add 1 of their armor save. So if you sit still, you're +1 armor when you're and against any damage 1 weapon. Unyielding, 6+ invul, which is a copy of one of the big ones. Contemptuous of the codes, each time a model with this code makes an attack against a character, add +1 to the hit roll, so they don't do honorable combat. Unmerciful Horde, you can reroll morale tests. Master of the Martial, each time you selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll 1 hit roll. So basically like a single roll to hit. Butchers, +1 to charge. Severed, a unit with this code benefits from the selected directive of your army's command protocol if it's within 9 of a friendly Necron character, except for shards, Catans. Vassal Kingdom, pick one of the main ones and use it instead. And those are your traditions. And then your Circumstance Awakening also is like another benefit. The Ancient Stir, add 1 to the move characteristic of Canoptic models, and each time a Canoptic unit with this code makes a pound or consolidate, you can move 4 instead of 3. Arise against the Interlopers, each time a model with this code makes a melee attack against an infantry or biker unit, a hit roll of 6 automatically wounds. Healthy Paranoia, add 3 to the range characteristic of ranged weapons, excluding pistols. That's like a copy of the Mafreet one. Relentlessly Expansionist, at the start of the first battle round before the first turn begins, units of this code can make a normal move to 6, so you move into your opponent's like zones and stuff. Isolationist, each time a model with this code makes an attack with a rapid fire weapon, the target's unit within 12, add 1 to its strength. That's pretty cool. Warrior Nobles, each time a noble model, which is basically lords, overlords, pharaons, and the Silent King, makes a melee attack, reroll a hit roll of 1 and reroll wound rolls of 1. So rerolling everything almost. And this is, I think, my favorite one, Interplanetary Invaders. One, the name is awesome. But vehicle units with this code are eligible to shoot even if they fell back, and if they do until the end of the turn, they're -1 to hit. And vehicle models with this code do not suffer the penalty to hit rolls incurred for firing heavy weapons within engagement range. That's pretty cool. I like that one a lot. And then stratagems. Okay, we're talking about quality life improvements again. Look at the color coding. So all of the battle tactics are green. The epic deeds, which is all the hero stuff, are brown. The dark green stuff is all requisitions. So like they let you take more relics or take more roller traits or whatever, or gain the Pharaon keyword. And then the strategic ploys are like in-game ploys for during the game. And they're all gray, and there's lots of them. And the light gray ones are war gear stratagems, which allow you to like basically affect like a certain weapon type in your army. And then you get special ones for the dynasties too. So they're all really cool. The battle tactics one uses strategy to start your movement phase. Select a core unit. This is a dimensional corridor for 1 CP. Take them up from the battlefield, and then set them up anywhere in the battlefield, wholly within 3 inches of a monolith, or more than 9 from the enemy. So, and more than 9 from the enemy. So you can suck a unit back basically and stick it at a monolith. Techno-oracular targeting for 1 CP, use it in the shooting phase before making a wound roll. It automatically wounds. That's pretty cool for 1 CP. Extermination protocols for 2 CPs. Use stratagem in your shooting phase when a locust destroyer or locust heavy destroyer, which is like the old style destroyers, is selected to shoot until the end of the term, until the end of the phase. Each time they make an attack, you can reroll the wound rolls. So for 2 CPs, reroll all your rolls to wound. It's pretty great. Storm of Cleansing Blades for flayed ones. Use it at the end of the fight phase. They can fight again. So it's kind of like Onto the Chapter, which, if you watch the Marine Codex one, has changed quite a bit. And it's only 2 CPs instead of 3 because it's only against, only with flayed ones. Be great if that could affect Scoreback Destroyers, but it can't. Fractal targeting for 1 CP. Use the stratagem in the shooting phase. Select a Tomb Blade unit until the end of the phase. All rapid fire weapons are treated as being Assault 2 instead of rapid fire. Models in this unit do not suffer the penalty to hit rolls for advancing and firing. So that's pretty great. 1 CP, you can run with your Tomb Blades and you become Assault, so you can still shoot and you're not in any penalties. Judgment of the Triarch for 1 CP. Use stratagem in the shooting phase. When a Triarch unit is selected to shoot or fight, each time they do so until the end of the phase, add 1 of the attacks hit roll. So +1 hit for all your Triarchs. Pretty cool. You can use it on any Triarch tagged unit. And then Eternal Protectors. Use it for Dynasty Lich Guard until the end of the phase. While that unit's within 3 or friendly Dynasty Noble, add 1 of the attack characteristics of each model in the unit. So for +1 CP, when you're fighting next to a character, +1 attack. It's pretty cool for Lich Guard. And then we've got our 5 Epic Deed ones. So this one is for 1 CP. Use this stratagem in any phase when a Necron's Infantry Noble or Infantry Cryptek model for your army is destroyed. Choose 1, this is Resurrection Protocol, roll a d6 at the end of that phase, and on a 4+, they come back with d3 wounds as close as possible to the point they died at, and not within 1 of the enemy models. You can only use it once per game per model. So, pretty cool though, like just to stay alive. Strange Echoes, use this stratagem in your command phase, select a Catan Shard from your army, and you can select a different power of the Catan for it than it knew already. So like switch out its powers. Deathless Arise for 1 CP. Use stratagem in your command phase, select a Technomancer unit from your army until the end of the phase. This model can use its Rites of Reanimation ability 1 additional time. So that's bring back any 1 model in a unit that's taking casualties, or if it's warriors, D3. So it could bring back 2 models into some other unit, plus it could bring back, or 2 D3 warriors. There's not a lot of bringing back anymore in the way the new reanimation works. So bear that in mind. You get the reanimation protocols they've spelled in Warhammer Community, where every time you take damage, you're going to roll, but only the Res Orb once per game, so per hero once per game that has a Res Orb, would allow a unit to make like a roll for its casualties that are dead. And then the Technomancer alone can bring back a single model of some type, or D3 warriors, and then the Ghost Arc can do it too. The Ghost Arc's the only other thing that can do that. It's just spitting out warriors. So that's nice for 1 CP. You can do it twice instead of once, which could be very handy for things like Scoreback Destroyers and stuff. Dimensional Destabilization, 2 CPs or 1 CP. Use the stratagem at the end of your movement phase. When a Catan charge from your army has used a power of the Catan, roll a d6. That model can immediately use the corresponding power of the Catan, even if it's already used it this turn. And if this model is Titanic, it's 2 CPs instead of 1. So basically, you get a random power, but for like a regular Catan for 1 CP, just get it to go off again. And they're all pretty good. I mean, the Catan powers are pretty good now. 2 CPs for Hand of the Pharaon. We're into the requisition ones. You can make a Necron Overlord have the Pharaon keyword, and in your command ability, you can use its Might Will Be Done twice instead of once. That's usually what the Pharaon thing means. It's using it 2 times because he's just like a senior noble. And then for 1 CP, Dynastic Heirlooms, get an extra relic. Rarefied Nobility, get an extra Warlord trait. Enslaved Protectors now, we're into Strategic Ploys. Use a stratagem in your opponent's charge phase, like a Canoptic unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, the unit's eligible to perform heroic interventions. So you'd have like, I I think scarabs are canoptic actually. So you can have things just like jump in front basically, or jump into combat. Stellar alignment protocol, but like your spiders and stuff good too. Use stratagem in the command phase. Select one Necron vehicle unit from your army that has a wound characteristic 10 or more. Until the start of your command phase, next command phase, it's considered to have full wounds. If it's Titanic, it costs 2 instead of 1. Reanimation prioritization. This allows you to basically have your canoptic reanimator. His ability now focuses on a single unit in the command phase to add +1 to its reanimation protocols. This lets you switch the unit, and so you do it in your opponent's shooting phase. So if unit's selected as a target of attack, and so basically if you say I'm in the command phase, I'm gonna have it beam onto this unit, try and heal it and give it +1 to its rolls, and your opponent goes, okay, well I'm gonna shoot this unit with this like big scary gun or whatever, then you go, okay, well I'm gonna spend 2 CBs and I'm gonna switch over to here now because I want them to be alive instead. And you're no longer counting as healing the original unit you picked. 1 CB for Burrowing Nightmares. Use stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select an Ophidian Destroyers unit from your army and have them come off the battlefield. And in the reinforcement step of your next movement phase, you can set it up anywhere within anywhere in the battlefield, not within 9. So you basically burrow your Ophidian Destroyers and then have them come back up. Self-destruct for 1 CP. This one's neat. Use it on canoptic scarabs. After they finish piling into the fight phase, you can select one enemy unit within engagement range and roll a die. On a 2 to 5, the enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. On a 6, it suffers 3, and that the canoptic scarab swarm model is destroyed. So you can have you can send your swarms in and then have them like dumpster onto a character and just blow themselves up to do 2 to 3 mortal wounds, or up to 3 mortal wounds, which I think is really cool. That's a really neat ability for scarabs. You can finish a tank. You could like put a big chunk of damage into a character. I like that for a cheapo kind of like disposable freako unit. Prismatic Dimensional Breach for 1 CP. Use a stratagem in your reinforcement step of your movement phase, like the Dynasty core unit from your army. So remember, you are getting core as a keyword, a lot like the Marine Codex, and it's pretty much everywhere. Like it's not on units that are any of the characters, any of the Catans and stuff like that, any vehicles, but it's on most of the other units, to be honest. And that to be in strategic reserve, and then select one friendly Dynasty Night Scythe or Monolith on the battlefield. Set that core unit up anywhere in the battlefield that's wholly within 3 of a Night Scythe or Monolith, and not within engagement range. So you can dump them within 9, which is pretty cool, during the reinforcement step for a CP. So beaming guys in from reinforcements, because everyone can buy reinforcements now. You're allowed to put things in reinforcement when you take these vehicles, and then for a CP you can have them come out basically in the end phase. But you can't use it in the first battle round. Shadows of Drazak. Use a stratagem in any phase. When a flayed 1 unit from your army is selected to be the target of an attack, until the end of that, you're -1 the attack's hit roll. It's pretty cool. You're just going to disappear, basically. Etheric Interception. And the stratagem is in the reinforcement step. Select one Hyperspace Hunters unit. Your opponent's reinforcement step. Select one Hyperphase Hunter unit from your army that's in strategic reserve. So basically, let's say my opponent has Terminators in reserve. He says he's going to deep strike them. I spend a CP, I have my stalkers, or not stalkers, what are they called? The sniper guys. Then deploy anywhere in the battlefield that's within 18 of that unit and not within 9 of the enemy. And then at the end of his shooting phase, I get to fire with that unit. So it's really cool because it represents the fact they are like following people through the warp or through like other dimensions. And I get to shoot out a turn against somebody's unit. So if I know my opponent has stuff in reinforcements and I want these guys to like hunt them, I can have them show up for a CP and then get to shoot during their turn. Relentless Assault, or Onslaught, for 1 CP. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase when a core infantry unit with your army is selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack with a rapid fire weapon, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores an additional hit. Curse of the Pharaon, it's 3 or 1 CP. Use this stratagem in any phase when a Necron vehicle model from your army is destroyed. Don't roll to see if it explodes, it just does! If it's Titanic, it costs 3, otherwise it costs 1. Atavistic Instigation. Use it in your shooting phase when a Doom Scythe model from your army is about to shoot. After you select the target of the model's heavy death ray, select an enemy unit within 3, and they can choose to either brace or duck for cover. If they brace, and they're not a vehicle or a monster unit, they take D3 mortal wounds. If that unit ducks for cover, then until the end of the turn, subtract 1 from the attack characteristic of the models in that unit, and the unit cannot fire, overwatch, or set to defend. So really, you only want to select units that aren't vehicles or monsters because it doesn't do anything to them. They'll just brace and ignore this. But if you select an infantry unit, or like some kind of like scary unit that's going to overwatch like crazy, like flamethrowers or something, they either have to take D3 mortal wounds or not be able to overwatch and lose an attack. So that's a neat ability for the death rate, just basically like cooks everything around it when it's shooting. 2 CPs for Revenge of the Doomstalker. What a great name. Use this stratagem in any phase when a dynasty character from your army is destroyed. Select one friendly dynasty canoptic Doomstalker model from your army. At the end of the phase, that model can shoot as if it was your shooting phase. You get to try and take revenge. And until the end of the battle, each time that canoptic Doomstalker model makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, add +1 to the hit roll. So if someone kills one of your characters, you can sick the stalker on them, and it's +1 hit forever, and it gets a free shot during the end of that shooting phase. Disruption fields. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when a Necron's core unit from your army is selected to fight until the end of the phase. Add 1 to its strength. Disintegration capacitors for 1 CP. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase when a Necron's unit from your army is selected to shoot until the end of the phase. Each time a model in that unit makes attack with a Gauss weapon, an unmodified hit roll of 6 auto wounds. Malevolent arcing for a CP. I like this one. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase when a Necron's model from your army targets a unit with a Tesla weapon. After making a weapon's attacks, roll d6 for every unit within 6, every other unit within 6, and a 4+ take a mortal wound. The lightning like jumps around and like zaps everything nearby. That's actually really handy for when you've got those like blobs of characters and like overlapping auras. Whirling Onslaught. Use a stratagem in any phase when a Scorpic Destroyers or Scorpic Lord from your army is selected to be the target of an attack. They spin their blades around real fast and -1 to hit. They do the old Swordmasters thing from Warhammer Fantasy for a CP. I like that. Sorry, -1 to wound, sorry, not to hit. -1 to wound until the end of the phase. Quantum Deflection. It's 1 CP. Use a stratagem in any phase. When a Necron's quantum shielding unit from your army is selected as the target of an attack, until the end of the phase, they get a 4+ invul. So quantum shielding is not what it was. It's not just ignore anything less than a certain damage. It's just an invul save for the most part now, and you can improve it for 1 CP. It's basically rotate ion shields for knights. Solar Pulse. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase. Select 1 enemy unit until the end of the phase. Each time a model on a Necron unit from your army makes a ranged attack against that unit, they don't get cover, so get rid of cover. Reconstitution Protocols for 1 CP. Use it in your command phase. Select a Ghost Arc in your army until the end of the phase. Each time that unit uses its Repair Barge ability, set up D6 destroyed models instead of D3. So it brings back D6 warrior models instead of D3. And then special stratagems, your dynasty ones. So remember, you only get access to these if you're using that dynasty, or you're a vassal kingdom. You've got Mafreet. So Talent for Annihilation is a CP. Uses in your shooting phase. If a Mafreet unit from your army is going to shoot until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, an unmodified wound roll of 6 inflicts a mortal wound, in addition to any normal damage. Translocation Crypt for Nefrek. Use stratagem before the battle. You select 1 Nefrek unit from your army, and they can gain the dimensional translocation ability. And then, excluding vehicles and monsters, they can't do it. Reclaim a Lost Empire for 1 CP. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase. Select a Nihilak infantry unit from your army that's currently performing an action. They can shoot without the action failing. So that's pretty cool. You can double dip into doing whatever the mission action is, but then still shooting your guns. Blood Rights for Novak. Use stratagem in the fight phase. Until the end of the phase, add 1 to the attack characteristic for the models in that unit. Methodical Destruction for 2 CPs for Sawtek. Use stratagem in your shooting phase. After a Sawtek unit from your army has finished making its attacks, select 1 enemy unit that was targeted by the attacks until the end of that phase. Each time an attack is made by another friendly Sawtek unit, they get +1 to the hit roll. So you get the Triarch Stalker's ability, basically, for 2 CPs. Empiric Dampening for 1 CP. Use a stratagem in your opponent's psychic phase. When an enemy psyker attempts to manifest a psychic power within 18 of a Zeracon unit, roll a d6 and a 4+, denied. So you just get a flat 4+ deny the witch once per turn. Once in this, per phase, basically. Yeah, it's once per turn because it's a stratagem. And then Cryptic Arcana. So now we're into the war gear stuff, and you get the power and points values for all of it right here in a nice little table. And these are things that can be bought for either any of the Cryptex or a specific type, like a Psychomancer or a Chronomancer or whatever. So some are universal, but some call out, you can see a keyword here. So like the Atta Vindicator, Atta Vindicator, it's Psychomancer only. At the end of your movement phase, select an enemy unit, excluding vehicles, within 18 and roll 3d6. If the total is higher their leadership, they take d3 mortal wounds. 25 points or 1 power. Crypto Geometric Adjuster. At the start of your shooting phase, you can select 1 enemy unit within 12 inches invisible to the bearer. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Photonic Subjector, once per turn. The first time a saving throw has failed for the bearer, damage characteristic is changed to 0. That one's kind of neat. So if you get hit by like a big, huge gun, that's really cool. I guess it's not as cool as you get hit by like a bunch of bolter shots or something. Dimensional Sanctum, you get Dimensional Translocation ability from page 80, sorry. And then Cortical Subjugator Scarabs. Once per battle, and these are all for anybody so far, it's just the one Psychomancer one I've read. Once per battle at the start of the Heroic Intervention step of your opponent's charge phase, you can select one friendly Dynasty unit within 6 of the bearer. Unless that unit is within engagement range of enemies, it can perform a Heroic Intervention. So you can basically push somebody into combat, even if they're not a character. Counter-Temporal Nanomines, this one's a Chronomancer only. In your shooting phase, you can select one enemy within 18 of the bearer until the start of your next turn. Have advance and charge rolls for them. I see that one being really handy against certain armies when you have a charge roll, especially people with deep striking. Failsafe Overcharger, Technomancer model only. In your command phase, you can select one friendly Canoptic unit within 9 of the bearer. Until the start of your next command phase, add one of the attack characteristic of models in that unit. If that unit's a monster or vehicle, add D3 to their attacks instead of just 1. A Hypermaterial Ablador. In your command phase, this one's for everyone again. The last one's just for Technomancers. In your command phase, you can select one friendly Dynasty Core or Dynasty Canoptic unit within 9. Until the start of your next command phase, each time a ranged attack is made against that unit, the attacker's more than 12 away, the unit you select gets light cover. A Quantum Orb, this one's for the Plasmancer. Once per battle in your command phase, the bearer can activate this item. If it does so, select a point in the battlefield within 24 and place a marker. At the start of your next command phase, roll a d6 for every unit within 6 of the center of that marker, subtracting 1 if they're a character. On a 4 to 5, D3 mortal wounds, on a 6, 3 mortal wounds, and the marker goes away. So you basically huck a grenade, and it stays there until start your next command phase. So you could basically you could scatter like a character blob or a parking lot or whatever. I kind of like that one, and it's anywhere within 24 in line of sight. So you just go over there and you throw out the grenade and start doing whom, whum, 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 and then it blows up in your command phase. So your opponent gets a turn to run away from it, but that's still, you can get someone off an objective, or they just have to take a whole bunch of damage. It's pretty cool. Metalodermal Tesla Weave. At the end of your charge step of your opponent's charge phase, select one enemy unit that finishes a charge move within 6 of the bearer. On a 2+, take D3 mortal wounds. Phylacterine Hive for the Technomancer only. Technomancer gets 2 of these. Yeah, Technomancer gets 2 of his own. Once per battle, when this bearer uses its rights of reanimation, select one friendly Dynasty Canoptic, Dynasty Destroyer, Culture, Track, Praetorian unit to be affected by the ability instead of just a friendly Dynasty Core unit. So that's pretty cool, because most of the Destroyer, Triac, and Canoptic stuff doesn't have the core keyword, and that lets you actually bring those guys back. Prismatic Obfuscatron, unless the bear is the closest element eligible target, it cannot be targeted by ranged attacks. That one's pretty cool. And then we're into Warlord traits. Okay, so your Warlord obviously is kind of the eldest lord on the table, typically. So you got Enduring Will, -1 damage when your attacks are allocated to your Warlord. Eternal Madness, reroll wound rolls in melee. Immortal Pride, each time a Warlord would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, and a 5+ is not lost, and it has the following ability. When a friendly Dynasty Core unit within 6 of this model takes a combat attrition test, it ignore any and all modifiers. Thrall of the Silent King, add 3 to their aura abilities. In addition, this Warlord can use My Will Be Done, the Lord's Will or Adaptive Strategy Tactics abilities. You can select one friendly Dynasty Core unit within 12 instead of within 9. Implacable Conqueror, while friendly Dynasty Core units within 6, you can reroll charge rolls. And Honorable Combatant, in the fight phase, each time this Warlord is selected to fight, it can engage in honorable combat. If it does select an enemy character unit, until the end of the phase, add 2 to the attack characteristic of this Warlord, but it can only attack that character. And then you get your Dynasty-specific ones. So Mafreak gets +1 strength and attacks. Just straight up. It's pretty cool. Nefrek gets Skin of a Living God. It's -1 to hit against them all the time. Nihilak, Precognitive Strike, fights first in the fight phase. Novek, Bloodfield Fury. Each time this Warlord makes an attack in melee, an unmodified wound roll of 6 inflicts a mortal wound on top of normal damage. Sawtek gets Hyperlogical Strategist. Each time you spend a command point to use a stratagem, you can roll a d6 and on a 5+, get it refunded. And Zeracon, the Triarch's Will. If your Warlord is the Warlord trait, then assigning command protocols to the battle, you can select 4 command protocols instead of 5, and then 1 can be used twice instead of 1. So when you're building your list of command protocols to play the game, you normally have to have each one be assigned to a turn. In this one, you can double down on one of them, which is kind of neat. And then, of course, the Silent King gets Triarch's Will. Imhotep gets Hyperlogical Strategist. Nemazor Zandrek gets Eternal Madness. Vargard Oberon gets Honorable Combatant. Illuminator Xeris gets Enduring Will. Oricon the Diviner gets Immortal Pride. And Rakir the Traveler gets Implacable Conqueror. And Trizine the Infinite gets Enduring Will. And relics. All right, Orb of Eternity. It's a res orb, so it lets you do an old school reanimation protocol roll. And the unit's reanimation protocol is enacted, and every destroyed model begins to reassemble. Each time a reanimation protocol is made for those reanimations, add 1 to the result. So basically, it's a res orb, which does the old take all the dead models in the unit, make a reanimation protocol roll for them. This one gives you +1. But you can't have already done it once. But you can only do it once per turn. So like if you haven't made a reanimation protocol in your command phase, you pick a unit that hasn't done one yet, and you get to do it with a bonus. So pretty cool. And it replaces your res orb. Nanoscarab Casket, you get 2 wounds back from Living Metal instead of 1. Gauntlet of the Conflagrator, it's a 12-inch range pistol. Each time attack made with this weapon, the attack automatically hits. Instead of rolling a wound, roll a d6 for every model in the unit. And on a 6, they take a mortal wound, and the attack sequence ends. So it's just a like one-shot flamer that makes every model potentially blow up. That one's pretty cool for fighting against like orcs and tyranids and stuff. Veil of Darkness, pretty much the same as before. If 2 units are set up, so basically the character picks a unit within 6, then they teleport anywhere they want. Voltaic Staff. Places the staff light, 18-inch range, assault 4, 6 -2, 2 damage. Or in melee, +1 strength, -2, 2 damage. For like a cryptech though, I guess you'd have lords and stuff with staff's light. Each time you unmodified hit roll of 6 happens, you get 2 additional hits. So it's kind of neat. Assault 4, you might get 1. I don't know. It seems okay. Void Reaper, +2 strength, -4 damage, -4 AP and 3 damage. And each time an attack's made with this weapon, ignore rules that cause people to ignore wounds. So you ignore all wound shrugs, basically, with the Void Reaper. That's pretty cool. So no, like, disgustingly resilient, no any kind of wound shrug roll. No catalyst. Sempiternal Weave is the same as before, +1 strength and wounds, but infantry noble only. So it's not going to apply to Scorpec Destroyers or the Locust Destroyers. Arrow of Infinity replaces a Tachyon Arrow, 120-inch range, assault 1, strength 16, -5, 6 damage, shoots once per battle. Conduit of Stars, Mafreet only, so we're into like the special ones now. Replaces a Relic Gauss Blaster. This is for your Royal Wardens. It's 36-inch range, rapid fire 3, so rapid fire is 18. Strength 6, -2, 2 damage. It's pretty cool. Solar Staff for Nefrek models. It replaces their Staff of Light with Assault 6, Strength 5, -2, 1 damage, 24-inch range. And then melee's just user Strength -2, 1 damage. But each time an attack is made with this weapon against an infantry unit, if a hit is scored until the end of the turn, that unit's blinded, and you can't file Overwatch or set to defend. That one could have some value. Infinity Mantle for a Nihilak model only. Add 1 to their armor save, and each time the bearer would lose a wound, roll a d6, and a 6 is not lost to get a wound shrug. The Blood Scythe for Novak, this one's pretty awesome, replaces a Void Scythe or War Scythe. +2 strength, -4 AP, 2 damage, and each time the bearer fights, it makes 2 additional attacks with this weapon. So pretty stabby. Vanquisher's Mask for Sawtech. At the start of the fight phase, you can select 1 enemy unit within 3. That unit's not eligible to fight in this phase until all other units have done so. So it's basically the time turner that the Judas Seer has in the Space Marine Army. But only 3-inch range. And then the Sovereign Coronal. Zeracon Nobles only. The bearer has the following abilities. Command Wave Amplifier. While a friendly Zeracon model is within 9 of the bearer, that unit benefits from the selected directives in your army's active command protocol, while it's within 9 of a friendly Necrons character model, instead of 6. So basically, you have a bigger aura for your protocols. And then Synthetic Cortex Enhancer. While a friendly Zeracon core unit's within 9 of the bearer, you can benefit from both directives instead of just 1. So whatever the active protocol is, you get both bonuses. And then we got some Powers of the Catan. So Antimatter Meteor, roll a d6, adding 1. And again, these happen at the end of the movement phase. Roll a d6, adding 1 to the roll if the Catan shard is a Tesseract Vault. On a 3 to 5, the close enemy unit takes 3 mortal wounds. On a 6, they take d3 plus 3 mortal wounds. So pretty cool. Vaults do it on a 2 plus. On a 5/6, it does d3 plus 3 mortal wounds. That's a good one. And times, we can't direct it though, so you have to be closest. Times Arrow, select a unit with an 18 invisible to the Catan shard and roll a d6. Add 1 if it's a vault. If the total exceeds the wounds characteristic of the enemy unit, the opponent selects 1 of those models to be destroyed. So pretty cool. D6ing over something's wound stat. So like a 5/6 would kill an Outrider, or a 4+ would kill like a 3 wound Marine or something like that. And they're just dead, no shrugs, it's just destroyed, so no like wound shrugs against it or anything like that. Sky of Falling Stars, select up to 3 enemy units within 24 of this Catan shard. For each of these units, roll a d6. On a 1 to 5, the dice result is less than the number of models in the unit. They take D3 mortal wounds. If it's a vault, then it's 3 mortal wounds instead of D3. Cosmic Fire, and you select up to 3 units for the Sky of Falling Stars, which is kind of cool. Cosmic Fire, roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within 9. On a 4+, take D3 mortal wounds. If the Tesseract Vault, it's just flat 3. And then Seismic Assault, select 1 enemy unit with an 18 invisible. Roll a d6 for each model in that unit, adding 1 if it's a shard or vault. Sorry, if it's a vault. And for a 6, they take a mortal wound to a maximum of 10. So you do cap out, which means if you go into like a 30-man unit of orcs and you've got +1 because you're a vault, you're not going to just do like a third of them dead. Well, I guess 10 would be average against a 30-man unit of something on a 5/6 if you're a big vault, but it still caps at 10. And then Transdimensional Thunderbolt. Select 1 enemy unit within 24 invisible. An enemy character with a wound characteristic of 9 can't. So basically, you get lookout sir against it. Roll 1d6 on a 2+, take D3 mortal wounds. Then roll a d6 for every enemy unit within 3. On a 4+, that unit suffers a mortal wound. So you could bounce it into a character, but you couldn't target a character directly. If this Catan shard's a Tesseract Vault, it's 6 inches instead of 3. And then unique ones, the Deceiver gets Cosmic Insanity. Select an enemy unit within 12 invisible to the shard, roll a d6 and add this Catan shard's leadership characteristic, and then your opponent does the same. The enemy unit takes a mortal wound for every point your total exceeds theirs. Shard of the Nightbringer, Gaze of Death. Select 1 enemy unit within 9 invisible, roll a 3d6 for every 4+, and take D3 mortal wounds. He just eye lasers you, which is pretty cool. And then Catan Shard of the Void Dragon, Voltaic Storm. Select 1 enemy unit within 18 invisible to the shard. Enemy characters with a wound characteristic of 9 or less can't be targeted. So usual lookouts there. On 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds, or D6 if they're a vehicle. Until the end of the next turn, if the unit's a vehicle whose characteristics change as loses wounds, then it halves the number of wounds remaining. So until the next turn, it has half its remaining wounds. That would crucify a knight. And then chapter approved. Okay, so this is for match play rules. 3 bespoke, no, sorry, actually more than that, 4 total. I'm not gonna say bespoke, unique to the Necrons. Secondary objectives. So no mercy, no intercept. You get the Code of Combat. Score 3 VPs at the end of the battle for each enemy unit that was destroyed by a Necron Noble unit from your army. So if your heroes are killing stuff. So if you kill 5 units with a hero, or with heroes, then you're gonna get 15. Battlefield Supremacy. Purge the Vermin. Score 2 victory points at the end of your turn for each table cord that does not have enemy units, excluding aircraft wholly within it. You can't score it in the first battle round. That one seems way more difficult against some armies. But also maybe way better. But it's for each table quarter, so it could actually ramp up fast if you manage to put people out of it. So it's 2 per table quarter. So you can get 4, you could get 8 in a turn potentially if you manage to like table your opponent. Treasure of the Aeons. If you select the secondary objective, then after both sides have finished deploying, your opponent selects 3 objective markers in the battlefield. Score a number of victory points at the end of your turn if you control 1 or more of those objective markers. So you get 1 for 2 for 1, 3 for 2, or 5 for 3. You're trying to get back whatever cool stuff you've left behind. And then Shadow Operations, you get an Ancient Machineries. If you select the secondary, then after both sides have finished deploying, starting with your opponent, the players alternate selecting objective markers not in deployment zones. If there's only 1, then that's it. And then you get Necron Core or Necron Canoptic units do the following action: awaken the Ancient Machines. At the end of your movement phase, 1 or more Necron Core or Necron Canoptic units in your army can start to perform this action. Each unit in your army that starts to perform the action must be in range of a different Ancient Machinery objective. The unit cannot start this action while there's any enemy units in range of the objective marker. The action is completed at the end of your next command phase, providing the unit attempting it to is still in range. You get 3 DPs every time someone awakens the Ancient Machinery action. So turn stuff on. Cool, because you do have a CP that, or a dynasty even that lets you do that and still shoot. And then Crusade rules. Look at this. I'm not going to go too big into the Crusade rules, but you're going to get your own agendas, requisitions, weapon enhancements, stuff like that. So they're pretty cool, like different ways of gaining experience. Requisitions, you can get Cryptic Arcana for like adding to people. Cunning Advisors, your Cryptic gains 6 experience points for a requisition point, which is pretty cool. Or Eldritch Artifice, you can get a vehicle with a weapon enhancement. And then Battle Traits for your Cryptex, your Nobles, your Core, and your Canoptic units. Dynastic epithets, so basically a name table, which I think is super cool. And then you get the sort of like cool different things that can go on a character unit based on what they are. Weapon enhancements, battle scars, and then your own Crusade relics, which is cool. So, man, along with the Nexus Rift, like campaign stuff with all the Necron stuff in there, all of this added onto it, it's going to be a lot of fun for Owen to play his Necrons, I think, in Crusade. Example of a Crusade army, Jay Goldfinch's army, and then data sheets. Okay, so we're into the meat of it now. Luckily, most of the data, like most of what we've seen in Indominus, means I can skip a lot of these things. I'm not going to do all the special characters. You guys can wait to see all that stuff. It's more the core army stuff I'm going to focus on. But let's jump right in and start doing it. I'm going to go through the data sheets and mostly just pick out things that I noticed that had changed. So, yeah, let's jump in. What do we got? The Dynasty keyword. Anyone with the Dynasty brackets, you got to pick it or make it if you're doing your own like special Dynasty. War gear, there's a whole war gear weapon. And sort of like stats sheet in the back on page 112. Abilities, so dimensional translocation. During deployment, you can set up this unit in hyperspace dimension instead of setting up on the battlefield. If you do, then the reinforcement step can be set up anywhere on the table, not within 9. It's basically deep striking. Living metal, get a wound back at the end of the your command phase. Reanimation protocols. So we've seen this on Warhammer Community. It's almost a wound shrug now, but you lose anything you don't get enough successes to get their total wounds back. So like, let's say Scorpic Destroyers get shot. Every time you get attacked, once you've taken your wounds, you've applied your damage, you're gonna roll a number of dice equal to the casualty model's wound stats. So let's say somehow I take exactly 6 wounds on a unit of Scorpic Destroyers, I'm gonna roll 6 dice. On a 5+, they come back. A 5+, I total those successes. And then any models whose wound, I can take a model, subtract their wound stat from that number of successes, and any leftover successes that I can't quite make something's wound stat with, those models don't come back. So it's better and worse because models become dead, and the way of bringing them back is fairly restricted. You can bring back warriors with your Cryptic Technomancer, or you can add a single model back to another unit if you want to use the CPs and stuff. That's not core, so the non-core units. And then your Ghost Arc can do it, and your Resorb can potentially do it. You only ever get +1 or -1 total ever against it. And the big way of getting that is from your Reanimator, and he only gets to pick a single unit to do it on. So you're kind of going to want to make big fat Death Star units if you want to keep them on the table and keep them alive. And yeah, that's it for Reanimation protocols. If you haven't read through this, it's on Warhammer Community already, but Owen and I have had a lot of debate about what we think about it so far. I think it's going to reduce the amount of like unfun situations where you kill that unit down to like the last man and then it's at full strength like a turn later because of all the buffs and rerolling and stuff. It really does put the emphasis on warriors because they have that numberless legion ability. The Ghost Arc piles into them. The Technomancer piles into them. You're spending command points to bring back other units. So it makes you more durable, and those models will come back right away to fight, so you don't have to wait until later. It makes it harder to wipe you out right away, like to a man, but also you're not necessarily coming back to full strength the next command phase because you're not rolling for all your casualties unless you burn your Resurrection Orb on it. And then command protocols. So every unit in your army gets to benefit from command protocols if they're in range of a character. So at the start of each battle round, if any noble units from your army are on the battlefield, the command protocol that you've assigned for that battle round takes place. Now there's 5 of them. You have to give them each to a game turn. It recommends in here, actually, as a designer's note, that in the data card set for the Necrons, oh geez, boxes are falling down, sorry about that. That there's going to be a set of cards for your command protocols that have the rules on them, and that you'll just flip over in the right order to do them. That feels like the kind of thing that's going to be really handy because otherwise you got to write it down and remember, and you're going to forget your command protocols and stuff. Kind of like, I wish my INF had that for the Tides. And you get to pick one of the following things for units in range of a hero. And you have to select a noble model from your to be your warlord, and then they're eligible for these benefits basically. So until the assigned command protocol stops being active, when a unit's eligible to benefit from this ability, it's within 6 of a friendly Necron's character, excluding Catans, they benefit from it. So all the characters have an aura. There's even a terrain piece that can extend the aura as well. But you're basically giving off one of these 5 benefits, and then your dynasty can allow one of these 5 to get both, basically. So the first one, Protocol the Eternal Guardian. First directive is, each time an attack is made against this unit, if it did not make a normal move, advance, or fall back in the battlefield, you get light cover. And then directive 2, so you could pick one of these two. Each time an enemy unit declares a charge against this unit, if this unit is not within engagement range of an enemy unit, it can either hold steady or set defend. If it holds steady, then Overwatch is on a 5+. If it sets defends, it's +1 to its attacks and melee's hit roll. So you can pick basically one of those two benefits, or both if you happen to be the right dynasty. Protocol of the Sudden Storm, Directive 1, add 1 to the move characteristic of models in this unit. And Directive 2, if this unit performs an action, it can still make attacks with ranged weapons without failing that action. That feels like a good turn 1 in some cases, because a lot of the action-based things you could then score on turn 2 and still shoot and be able to move a whole bunch. Protocol of the Vengeful Stars, Directive 1, each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack. On unmodified wound roll of 6, improve the AP by 1. And Directive 2, each time a model, but remember that won't stack with Mafrit, because its ability doesn't stack with anything else. Directive 2, each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack that targets the enemy within half, the target does not receive the benefit of cover. Protocol of the Hungry Void, each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, an unmodified wound roll of 6, improve the armor penetration by 1. And Directive 2, each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, if that unit made a charge move, add 1 to its strength. So, or was charged or heroically intervened. Protocol of the Undying Legions, each time this model uses its living metal ability, it gets 2 wounds back instead of 1. It's going to be a really popular one for late game. And Directive 2, each time you make reanimation protocols for this unit, you can reroll 1 of the dice. Not all the dice, just 1 of the dice. Protocol of the Conquering Tyrant, add 3 inches to the range of this unit's aura abilities and increase the range of the following abilities this unit has by 3 inches to a maximum of 12. So Lord's Will, My Will Be Done, and Rites Reanimation. And then Directive 2, if this unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it fell back, but if it does, you're -1 to hit. So you can do fall back and shoot. So you get to pick what order those 5 things happen in during the course of the game. There's that one ability that lets you do 4 instead of 5 and double down. So like, which ones do I feel like would be good to double down? Maybe the Protocols of the Undying Legions, having that for turns 4 and turn 5, where like you get to double down on living metal, and also when you make reanimation, you can reroll a die. That one might be good to double down on. Also, Protocol of Sudden Storm for bonus movement and actions and still shoot would be really good for maybe turns 2 and 3, because you're able to score. Yeah, I think this is like what the optimum setup is for the command protocols is probably going to be the biggest debate amongst Necron players, and it doesn't seem to be set. After both sides are deployed, before you determine who has the first turn, then you assign them to the turns. So like, you're not having to set it for your army as part of your army list. You can do this however you want each game against each opponent, and there will be some people that I think probably that they have like, this is the way I'm always going to do it. And there'll be some people who are lazy, probably like me, that'll be like, this is the way I like to do it, or build around your army, but I don't know. We'll see. We're in data sheets. So all our friends are here. Chewie, Han Solo, Lando. They're all still around. We got Imhotep, Oricon the Diviner, Vargard Oberon, Anarchy the Traveler, Illuminator Xeris in his new form, Nemesis Zandrak, and Trazine the Infinite. So people are going to want me to go through all these, I'll be honest. Special characters don't do it for me. They seem cool. I'm not going to bother reviewing them. I'm going to stick to like the big sort of like top level stuff. Royal Wardens, pretty much the same as in Indomitus. His Relic Ghostbusters is pretty much the same, but he's got some cool relic options to grab them now. Scarback Lord, not being able to get the weave is a big deal. Stays strength 6, toughness 6. Because he does. Oh no, he does have infantry. Never mind. I'm a liar. I totally blew that. I thought because he had big legs, he was like this guy who didn't have. Oh no, he has infantry too. The Locust Lord has infantry. I thought he was a biker. Well, sorry, Alan. He's infantry. He's an infantry destroyer called Dynasty. Scarpack Lord. Nope, he's good. He can still take that one. Separate terminal weave. Well, you're gonna have to deal with that still, I guess. I thought he didn't have the infantry keyword because he didn't have 2 legs. Locust Lord's got a Resorb. No Resorb for him. Lord's got a Resorb, which is nice. And he can be equipped with a Resorb. I think it costs points. Gets his Relentless March, so he gets the Relentless March that the new Overlord had. Catacomb Command Barge gets his Resorb. Cool Hyperphase Sword, Void Blade or War Scythe, pretty much the same options as now. Heavy Goss, Overlord, pretty much the same as the one from Indomitus. The one from Indomitus is like the stock one now. Comes equipped with a Tachyon Arrow and Hyperphase Glaive, and then you can give him different options. Phase Shifter comes stock. Technomancer. So now we've got our different Mancers, all our different Cryptex. Technomancer is the only one that does Rites of Reanimation. None of the rest of them do. So if you want to bring guys back, you're bringing a Technomancer. In your command phase, you can select one friendly Dynasty core unit within 6 inches of this model. One destroyed model from that unit's reanimated. If the selected unit's a Necron warrior unit, it's D3 instead. And you can only select each unit for this ability once per phase. So you can't have multiple Technomancers and have them all dump their ability into a single unit. You got to split them up. So there's no benefit to having 3 Technomancers stand behind somebody. This one's neat. Dynastic Advisors, all 4 of these guys have. If your army's Battle Forged, then for each Cryptech unit included a detachment that also contains at least 1 noble unit, you can have an additional Cryptech without taking up a slot in the battlefield. So I think that's really handy because these are cheapo characters. Your battalion tends to fill up really fast because you have to have some type of lord typically lead your army. That leaves 2 more slots if you want to have like a fighting lord, like a barge or a Scorpec lord. Then you've got only 1 slot left to have one of these guys. You get a free slot basically as long as you've got a noble in there. So I like that and encourages taking them. Plasmancer is the same as the one in Indomitus. The Psychomancer, he gets the Harbinger of Despair. In your model phase, you can select 1 enemy unit within 12 of this model and roll 3d6. If the result is greater than the enemy's leadership characteristic, they can one of the opposite effects takes place until the next morale phase. You can either have it not be able to perform actions, and if it's currently performing it fails, which is really trolly, loses OBSEC, halves advance and charge rolls, or cannot fire Overwatch. And it's just 3d6 versus their leadership, which I think is amazing. And then Nightmare Shroud, if you're within 6, -1 leadership, and -1 to combat attrition tests. So pretty handy. Chronomancer gets Time Splinter Mantle, has a 4+ invul, and then Chronometron in your command phase, pick 1 friendly Dynasty unit within 9, and it can reroll charge rolls and gains a 5+ invul. So this is how you give your monolith an invul. It doesn't have an invul otherwise. Owen was like big on that. Gonna go get himself a Chronomancer. And he's got, I mean, cool guns and stuff too. Plasmancer is pretty much the same as the one in Indominus. And then our warriors, same as Indominus. Immortals, Tesla carbines are pretty much the same. It has reanimation protocols. So core. Canoptic Reanimators, not core, but it's the Reanimator. It does its nanoscale reanimation beam. In your command phase, you can select a friendly Dynasty core unit within 6 invisible until the start of your next command phase, while that unit's within 6 invisible units being healed, and it gets +1 to its protocols. Hexmark Destroyer, he's the cool tons of gun character with 6 shots. His Overwatch is on a 2+, which I think is hilarious. And then Multi-Threat Eliminator. Every time it kills a model with its disintegrator pistols, it gets a free attack, but they don't generate more attacks. And then Hardwired for Destruction, it gets to reroll hit rolls of 1. So pretty cool. I mean, it's got 6 strength 6 -1 damage 1 shots. It's an elite choice. It's a single model. It's kind of tough. Like, it's okay tough. I don't know. It has really good Overwatch. I don't know. It's a character that doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but I think it's cool. Lich Guard got their 2 wounds, which is sweet. 3 attacks, which is sweet. Hyperphase swords are still really good. Strike 6, -3, 1 damage. Dispersion Field gives them +1 armor save now, so they're 2+ armor save in addition to being a 4+ save. They get basically Storm Shields. And then Living Metals, they get wounds back every turn, which is super cool. And Guardian Protocols, the friendly units, infantry noble or dynastic agent infantry noble is within 3 of this unit. They cannot be targeted with ranged weapons, period. So even if you got sniper stuff, can't target them. Death Marks, they get reanimation, command protocols, transemotional relocation, so they can go into their sort of like reserve. Flayed ones, notice not core. Oh, sorry, this one is core, not core for the flayed ones. So that means no bringing them back. With the Technomancer, they have Terrifying Foes, which is -2 leadership within 3 of them, which I think is cool. Flesh Hunger, each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack against a non-vehicle unit, a hit roll of 6 scores an additional hit. And they've got 3 attacks each, 3+ melee, strength toughness 4. I mean, they're Necron warriors basically with a 5-inch move. And Flare Claws are -1 AP. And they can go into Dimensional Translocation, which is cool. Crypt Thralls are still bananas. I don't know. They're so good. Not core, though. They get to BS 3+ and attack characteristic. Weapon skill plus skill 3+ and attacks of 6 if they're next to a Crypt Thrall, which I think is so cool. Or Cryptic, rather. All right, this one's neat. This is different. Scrubback Destroyers, exact same as Indominus, but the plasma site is a separate unit. So it's not part of the Scrubback Destroyer unit, which means you can't eat a las cannon with it like Owen used to do. Not core, you'll notice. He's Beast, Fly, and Plasma Sight. He just stays nearby the unit now and gives it its Infused Madness potential. But if it's not within 6 of a Destroyer Cult unit, it just disappears. It just goes away, it gets recalled. So, neat. And if it's within 3 of the Destroyer Cult units, they can't be targeted by weapons unless it's closest. So it's a unit of 1, but it's pretty safe just hanging out with the Scrubback Destroyers. It just can't eat that las cannon shot like Owen was doing. Triarch Stalker's pretty much the same. Quantum Shielding course has changed, 5+ invul save, and each time an attack is made against this, it only wounds at best on a 4+. So you can never wound them better than 4s, and 5+ invul. Targeting relay is the same. The Deceivers, only strength 6 now, not strength 7. Movement 8 with 9 wounds and 5 attacks. Big change here is with Necrodermis. You can never take more than 3 wounds in the same phase. So you could do 6 wounds in a turn basically, because you could shoot it for 3 and then charge it and do 3 in melee. But it means it's going to survive at least until 2 turns, and it's -1 to hit now because of misdirection. And this is the Deceiver one. Grand Illusion's really different. You can either redeploy inside your own deployment zone, up to 3 units, or you can put them in strategic reserve, and that's it, for free. So, I don't know. It's got living metal now, though, which means wounds come back, which is a huge deal, because it didn't have living metal before, and dimensional translocation, so it can deep strike. This model can never have a relic or warlord trait. In addition, enemy models can ignore the lookout sir rule when selecting this model as a target of an attack, so you don't get to hide either. And he's pretty spendy. Not core, obviously. Nightbringer, still pretty good too. He's got strength 7 now, and he's got 6 attacks instead of just 5. His scythe's pretty awesome. He makes 2 attacks instead of 1 with it, so he gets 12 attacks at strength 7 minus 3/1 damage, so you can like reap lots of little guys. Or you can do an entropic blow where he's strength 14, AP minus 4 d6 damage, and then each time it's made, no invuls. He's got living metal, Necrodermis the same no lookout sir. Same reality on Rebels when he dies. And then drain life. Every time this model makes a melee attack, they cannot use any runes that ignore rules. So no getting your disgustingly resilient against this guy. And then they know powers like Catan. He knows his bespoke one was his own one, and then another one. They used the word in the book and it's stuck in my head now. Void Dragon's pretty cool. Pretty much the same stuff, except for adding in matter absorption. At the end of the phase, roll a d6 for each enemy vehicle model. Destroyed as a result of an attack made by this model on a 2+, it gets a wound back. So on top of living metal, it kills vehicles. You go hunt light vehicles with it, and he gets his wounds back. He's also only strength 6. With 5 attacks, he's the same like base stat line as the Deceiver. But his steer's pretty cool. He's got a 12-inch range, heavy 1, 9 minus 4 d6 damage, and you draw a straight line and make a wound roll over every other unit the line passes over. And when it's a vehicle model, it's d3 plus 3 instead of d6. So more sort of like more reliable. Canoptic Tailblades, you get d6 additional attacks at -2 and 1 damage with its like weird flashy tail. And its spear and melee is +3 strength, so it's strength 9, minus 4 d6, and attacking vehicles, it's d3 plus 3 damage. So, pretty cool. And then you get your generic Transcendent Catan, which is, I guess, what you'd use your general Catans as now. Not quite as dangerous. Has the same Deceiver stat line, and its tendrils are minus 4 d6 damage. Has Living Metal, has Necrodermis, has Reality and Revels, Fractured Personality. Before the battle, select one of the abilities on the table to the right for this model to have for the duration of the battle. Alternatively, you can randomly determine 2 by rolling 2d6 and re-rolling if you get doubles. So you could pick 1 or 2d6 and get 2 different ones. Got our Spiders, Scarab Swarms, again, not core, they're all Canoptic. You can spend a CP to bring back a Canoptic though. Ophidian Destroyers, with their guns and stabbers. And they're, I think, the alternate build for the stabby ones, the new ones. Tomb Blades. Again, I haven't used Tomb Blades that often, so I can't remember what they do that much. Any number of models can have shield veins, and then any number of models can have a nebula scope or a shadow limb. So everyone can have a 3+ save if you want to give them the shield veins, and then they can have either a 5+ invul or no cover when they shoot them. They still have twin Ghostbusters, which is cool. Rapid fire 2, strength 5 minus 2/1 damage, and you can change them to assault with a CP. And the twin Tesla carbines are pretty great too, because it's just they're upgunned warriors, and they are core, which means you can bring them back. Bring back 1 per turn with their 2 wounds. Track Praetorians, not core. Still pretty great. Jump troops, basically. 10-inch move. Your Wraiths, still pretty great with their Vicious Claws. Strength 6, minus 2/2 damage. And their Whip Coils. And you can have Vicious Claws or Whip Coils. And they have Living Metal now, so they get wounds back, which I think is pretty great. So do the Praetorians, by the way. And so do the Ophidian Destroyers. So instead of having the ability to be brought back as easily, they get to grow back their wounds. And they have a 4+ invul now instead of a 3+ invul. No Canoptic Wraiths. They can charge when they fall back, though, which is kind of cool. Slinking Strike. They can shoot and charge when they fall back. Annihilation Barge, it's big super gun. Quantum Shielding is the same. Best wounding on 4s with a 5+ invul. It's got its big super guns. Doomsday Arc, again, big super guns. Living Metal, Command Protocols, which is pretty cool. Quantum Shielding, 5+ invul. Locust Destroyers, the old school destroyers, with its anemic exterminators. Heavy 3d3 blast, strength 7 minus 1/1 damage, 36-inch range, pretty cool. And any Locust Destroyer can, so that the one Locust Heavy Destroyer can have its anemic exterminator instead. Everyone else has the Gauss Cannon. Or Gauss Destructor. Also Living Metal, hardwired for destruction. They can reroll hit rolls of 1 all the time. And move models of this unit do not suffer penalty for firing heavy weapons in the same turn that they moved. Because they're infantry. Are they infantry? They are infantry, yeah. But not core. And then Heavy Destroyers, the Locust Heavy Destroyer, which you can either attach to this unit or have on its own, 1 to 3. And it's got the big anemic exterminator. But again, not core, Living Metal, and hardwired for destruction. Doomstalker we've seen. Ghost Arc, big change is Repair Barge in your command phase. You can select 1 friendly Dynasty Necron Warriors unit within 6. If you do, up to D3 destroyed models from that unit reanimate, and only can be used once per phase. And that's pretty much the big changes. Night Scythe and Doom Scythe. Supersonic explodes, hard to hit, airborne, Living Metal, Command Protocols. Pretty much all the same. But they actually have they don't have invasion beams anymore, sorry. They have, this model has a transport capacity of 20 Dynasty Core Infantry, Dynasty Infantry Character, or Dynasty Agent models. So they actually transport now, as opposed to flying people down. So that is a big difference, I guess, for the Night Scythes, is there's actually guys in there technically now, assigned to it in strategic reserve, or sorry, in deployment, not in strategic reserve. And so they dump out if it dies. And then we got Obelisks and Tesseract Vaults. Tesseract Vault's got its big Tesla Sphere. These are the Lords of War stuff now, and the Monoliths of Lords of War. Monolith's the big one that we're looking at. It's pretty cool. 24 wounds, 6 attacks. Now, the Death Ray is what you replace the Gauss Flux Arcs for, and they're cheap. They're 4 of them for 5 points each, so 20 points. Takes it to, I think, 380. Toughness 8, Strength 8, and there's heavy 1, Strength 9, minus 3, D3 plus 3 damage. But then the Portal of Exile is a melee weapon, and it automatically hits. So if you go into melee with this thing and it's still healthy with 13 or more wounds left, you get hit automatically 6 times at Strength 8, minus 3 damage. That's pretty bonkers. Like, that's really good. You can just touch a Dreadnought and it would explode. And then you got Living Metal, Command Protocols, Death Descending. You can basically destrike it anywhere outside of 9. Hovering, Measure from the Hull, explodes, D6 mortal wounds. And then Eternity Gate, in your movement phase, if this model remains stationary, then in the reinforcement step, you can summon 1 unit. If it does, select a Dynasty Core Infantry unit that's in strategic reserve and place it wholly within 3 of this model and not within 1 of the enemy. And they count as having moved their move characteristic this turn. So, pretty cool. You can just put it in your opponent's deployment zone and start dumping out units. And the Silent King, he is bananas and huge. He was on Warhammer Community, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on him, but he's 3 models, and the Triarchal Menhirs are 5 wounds each at toughness 7. You're going to have to kill them first. So you got to get through 10 wounds before you get to his 16 wounds, and then he starts degrading. So really, he has 26 wounds in this unit. Yeah. Madness. And they're a unit of 3 models. Yeah, and it's a unit. So it's a unit of 3 models, basically. And he's the last one you're going to ever have touched by stuff. So the Menhirs are 2+ to hit, and they each have an Annihilation Beam. So they have a heavy 1, Strength 12, minus 4, 6 damage gun. And you got to do 10 wounds before they both go away. And then he still has all of his crazy melee stuff too. So he's got some 24-inch range, assault 3, strength 8, -3, 2 damage for his scepter, and his staff of stars, which are assault 9, strength 6, -2, 1 damage. Crazy. And then his melee attacks are, of course, bonkers as well. Strength 8, -4, 3 damage, makes 4 additional attacks, but only 4 attacks. And then the Scepter of Eternal Glory makes 6 attacks at strength 9, -3, 2 damage. It's pretty good. He can will be done twice. For +1 to hit, he's a Pharaon. Relentless March. Anytime a Necron core track Praetorians within 6, they get +1 to their move. Pharaon of the Blades aura. You can reroll the wound rolls for Necron core track Praetorians within 6. And then while friendly Necron core track Praetorians within 6, you can reroll the hit roll. Like, so you reroll all hits and wounds within 6 of him. And then the obeisance generator, any enemy units within engagement range of him fight after everybody else during a turn. Madness. And then he can deny the witch once per turn too. Voice of the Trarch, once per battle at the start of any battle round, if Zarek is on the battlefield, he can alter your command protocols. If he does, command protocol you did not assign to any battle rounds becomes active for your army for the battle round instead of the one you assigned to it. Triarchal Menhir, while the unit contains this, does not count as a character for the purpose of Lookout, sir. And then he does. The Silent King, if your army is battle forged, Zarek must be your warlord. You receive 3 additional command points if Zarek is your warlord. Transtemporal Force Field, 4+ invul. Preservation Auto Torpor, if he ever has 8 or less wounds remaining, it cannot make attacks with Staff of Stars and loses the Pharaon of the Stars ability. If Zarek has 4 or fewer wounds remaining, it cannot make attacks with the Sides of Dust and loses the Pharaon of Blades ability. And then Vengeance of the Enchained, when Zarek is destroyed, roll a d6 before moving from play on a 4+. Everything within 2d6 takes d6 mortal wounds because the Catan escapes, which is cool. And then the Convergence of Dominion. This is a fortification, which I think is kind of neat. It's 3 of them. They have 10 wounds, so it's 30 toughness 8 wounds with a 3+ save that has living metal. And they have D3 shots each at strength 4, -3, 3 damage. They count as a dynastic command node. So while command protocol is in effect, friendly units with the command protocol ability within 6 get the directives. They count as characters basically for the protocols. And then Convergence of Dominion, they get set up on the battlefield wholly within 12 of each other to be a unit. And then Translocation protocols, while there's any Star Stell units from your army on the battlefield, Cryptek units in your army can attempt the following action. Activate Translocation protocols. At the end of your movement phase, 1 friendly Cryptek unit from your army within 3 of any friendly Star Cell units can start to perform this action. The action is completed at the end of your turn. Once completed, select one of these Star Cell units and remove it from the battlefield and set up anywhere more than 9 inches away. If the battle ends up with any Star Cell units not in the battlefield, it's destroyed. So basically, you can move them around. You can translocate them around. And they're supposed to be these like I like how they're all kind of damaged. They're these weird obelisks that were just like lying around on other planets that have started to like reactivate as the Necrons wake up. We got all our weapon profiles, which is handy. And okay, wait for it. If you've watched the Marine one, you've already seen this, but oh, I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited about this. Look at this. Look at this! The point values! Oh my god. I'm just going to hold this still because I'm not going to go through it all for you, but I want to talk about how much easier it is to make an army list with this. So it's just, here's the unit. It costs this much with all of its weapons. If it has weapon options that don't have a bonus point value here, then they're free. So don't worry about it. This is so much easier to make an army with. Oh, it's so nice. You pay the points per model, and then if there's something that's going to cost you extra points that you want to take, you pay whatever the little thing is here. So Overload, for example, is 95 points. He costs 30 points to give him a Res Orb, 5 for Attack and Arrow, 15 for a Void Scythe, and 5 for a War Scythe. Anything else is free. Any other options you could possibly take don't cost points. Fantastic. Stop messing around with like super crunchy point values. Give me something meaty. Give me something I can use quickly. I'm so excited. When I looked at the Marine one, I was just like a single tear. I feel like the design studio has finally woken up to how oppressive it was in 8th edition to write army lists. And people have complained. Owen did a whole live show about it where people were like, it wasn't that hard. It's not so bad. It's just math. And then his question was, when was the last time you made an army list without using Battlescribe or without using some kind of an app to make your army? And most people were like, well, yeah, but those are just convenient. And it's like, no, this is like 5 minutes, pen and paper, so much easier. It's so good. I'm just gonna hold these open. If you guys really want to pause the video and like squint to try and see the point values, that's fine. But I'm really happy they did that. And then the glossary terms, we've got all of our glossaries for like all of the special rules that most of the armies have, and then the reference for command protocols, reanimation, royal court. It's a quick and dirty like description of how it works. And then now, last thing, and I've covered up so you can't steal it, a code for the app. You get this book for free as a digital copy when you buy it physically now to go into your Warhammer 40k app. Yay! I'm so excited. Yeah, so if you watch my Marine version of this, you've probably seen how much I like the change to the format for these. I feel like there was a strategy meeting at some point where they talked about the codexes of 8th edition, they talked about what everybody liked about them and what everybody wanted from them, and they stripped them down to like a really user-friendly gameplay aid that has everything you need to play, and then added value for narrative play, added value for matched play by adding in like the extra secondary objectives, all the Crusade relics and stuff like that, which would be kind of the path to glory in an Age of Sigmar battle tome. This really feels more unified with the design vision for the army books in AOS. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Check out the Marine review up top if you want. Let's talk in the comments what you think about the Codex. I'll see you for more of these soon. Until then, I'm Ash. Have a good one. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below to get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirts, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Death Ray Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone, past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course, I will continue doing it as long as I can.